everyone, it's Caitlin from Really Big Plant. Thank you so much for joining me for this video.
Really big plant.
I just want to show you one plant that I have in my collection that I think is doing something really cool with its variegation. This is a variegated Burle Marx Philodendron, and I've had it for a while, and when I first got it, it didn't have super strong variegation and it was not in great shape. I got it as part of a plant import when I was much more into that sort of at the end of like 2019, early 2020. It wasn't in super good shape when it arrived, and these plants got really expensive during the shutdown, just like a lot of other rare plants, and I was lucky enough to get my hands on a very small one of these. So the variegation on this plant wasn't super strong when I first got it, but it does still have some of the original leaves on the plant. And full disclosure, I'm making this video now because I've noticed that some of the older leaves on the plant have started to develop a little bit of some yellow spots on them that look suspicious to me, and I'm gonna cut them off soon. So I wanted to make this video so I could show you this plant before I cut off some of the variegated leaves. You might have noticed that a lot of the leaves on the plant don't look variegated at all, and that's because they're not, because it started to revert. But the really, really cool thing about this plant is that it has branched off in two directions, into one branch that is entirely reverted and dark green, and then another branch that has turned entirely yellow. This type of variegation is considered unstable variegation, which means that it's not genetically part of the plant. It's like a mutation, and it requires some maintenance to keep the individual leaves variegated, because you tend to get reversion on plants that have unstable variegation. And the reason for that is the variegated areas have less chlorophyll, which is what plants use to produce energy that they use to eat and grow and survive. And so plants that do have this unstable variegation tend to eventually get rid of it as they grow because it's not beneficial to them. And this plant is a really, really cool example of that, in my opinion, because since it's split, you can see what a big difference the two different leaf colors make in terms of the overall size and health of the leaves. So this branch that has split into all green leaves is producing these much larger bright green leaves, and the branch that split into all yellow leaves is growing really, really tiny leaves now. They're growing at a very similar rate, but once the plant split into a yellow side and into a green side, the yellow side is obviously pretty stunted in comparison. You can see how much smaller these little yellow leaves are than their non-variegated counterparts. And so I've got this in a cup with some moss. Don't judge me. I mean, you can judge me. Side note, I saw this post on Reddit the other day where someone was like, I don't know at what point people begin to keep their plants in plastic cups, and I felt personally attacked, but and also kind of ashamed that I've got rare plants like these in party cups, but it works out for me. So I've got this just in sphagnum moss in here. But right, I was showing you this so that you can see the back of the plant. You can see how the variegation splits and how this is the all yellow plant and then this is the green plant. And this plant is doing something weird. It's like mutating all over the place. Each branch is growing lots of growth points, and it's just growing like crazy. And I think what happened was when it arrived, the newest leaf got kind of messed up and it just sort of stopped growing. And what happened was it started forcing a whole bunch of more growth all along the stem, which is something that happens sometimes if you just keep pruning back a plant. It will trigger a lot more lateral growth, which means growth from dormant buds that are along the stem of the plant. Because normally plants have just one growth point. I mean, not all of them, but a vining plant like this one tends to have a single growth point that just grows from the end. And if you chop off that end point or something happens to it, it triggers a hormonal response that tells the plant basically you should try somewhere else, try to grow from somewhere else. And what happened on this plant, I think, because it was so messed up in the beginning, it created so many growth points that these are just branching all over the place. And so I've got this one side here that's just branching all yellow leaves. And I just think that it's so fascinating to me that this has happened. It's just a really good example of how unpredictable the variegation is. On my philodendrons, I've noticed that the leaves tend to grow You'll have a central stem, and then you get a leaf that grows this way, and then a leaf that grows this way, and a leaf that grows this way, and they go back and forth. And so if you have variegation on the stem that sort of splits that stem in half, you could have a leaf that's not variegated, and then a leaf that's variegated, and a leaf that's not variegated, and a leaf that's variegated, just because of the location of the growth point on the stem. When new leaves grow, the variegation on them usually is dependent on the variegation in the stem there. Not always, because sometimes variegation pops up and goes away, but it's a pretty good predictor for what the leaf is going to look like if you can tell where the growth point is on the stem. Like if the growth point pops out right where there is a clear line of variegation, you're probably going to get a variegated leaf. But then to add to that, if you've got a stem that's split green and yellow, or white and green, and then on top of that, the stem decides that it's going to form an entirely new branch on both sides, you end up with a situation like this, where you get an all yellow plant and an all green plant. So I actually just can't even believe that I have this. It's really, really cool, and I don't think I'm going to cut it back. I might chop back a little bit of the all green side because it is dominant in the growth of this plant. The plant is going to continue to grow this side more vigorously just because there's way more chlorophyll here and way more energy producing cells. So this side is probably over time going to grow faster and faster, and I wouldn't be surprised if the yellow side kind of dies off. But I don't want to separate them because I do think that this yellow side is kind of relying on the energy from the green side to keep it alive. And I think if I separated the plants down at the bottom from where they branch, the yellow side might not make it. So I'm keeping them all attached for now, and unfortunately, I'm probably going to cut off all of the leaves, almost all of the leaves that have variegation, just because they're starting to look kind of sick. It's really hard to see on camera, but they've got these really little yellow dots on some of the leaves now, and it's concerning to me. And even if it's not sickness, it's just the first sign that those leaves are going to start dying. They're 2 years old now, so it's sad, but it's not surprising to me that I'd be losing some of the lower leaves on this plant. But I just wanted to show this to you while it had all three types of leaves still on it. As in the variegated original leaves that came on the plant, and then the all reverted green leaves and the all neon yellow leaves. So I would be really interested to hear from you if you have any plants like this in your collection that have variegation that has split. If you do, or if you've seen other people that have a situation like this, please link it to me in the comments because I would love to see it. I'm really thrilled about this, and I just think that this is so cool that this happened. This is a living science experiment to help understand how variegation works. I feel like it couldn't be clearer than this, that plants prefer the darker green, or at least unstable variegated plants prefer the darker green to grow vigorously. So anyway, I thought I would just show this to you guys. I think it's so, so cool. I know I need to get it out of this cup, and I do want to give it a stake. Because I do want to see if I put a support against these yellow leaves, they'll probably get bigger. So yeah, I'll have to see what happens with this. I hope you thought this was interesting, and I know I'm completely fascinated by it. So thank you so much for letting me share this with you guys, and I hope you're having a really fantastic week, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye.